Hey guys, it's Mel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a bit of a Q&A video for you because I've noticed a lot of the same comments coming through on some of my videos asking the same questions. And while I'm making my videos every 2 days, one of the hardest things for me to do is to stay on top of the comments on my videos. And don't get me wrong, I'm reading all these comments, but sometimes I just don't physically have the time between making the videos, editing the videos, running my eBay store, running my household to answer every single one of those questions. So this might become a regular type of video that I maybe make after every half a dozen videos or so, whenever I feel like there's enough questions. And I might come in here and elaborate a little bit more on some of those questions that have been asked, because a lot of them are the same questions. And also a lot of them are questions that I don't really want to reply just on like one line. Sometimes I need to go into a little bit more depth to actually answer that question properly. So the first question is, how many cages have you emptied? And I was trying to rack my brains and I'm pretty sure it is 5 cages. And I had 22 cages, I think, to start with. So there are still some cages over in Tom's warehouse and waiting for me to bring in over here. As I empty some of these cages, he drops some new ones in here to replace them. So I'm trying to keep roughly the same amount of cages in here at all times. That helps free up his space. And as soon as I empty them, he can take some of those empty cages away and bring me more. And eventually I will have no more cages to empty unless I choose to do another one of these hauls again, which I don't know. I still don't know if I will do that. It is a lot of work. It is a lot of effort going through those cages, and I've got a, there's also a lot of low-end books into it. So I guess it's a different business model than I'm used to. It's a little bit different, and I have to decide whether or not that's something that I want to do on an ongoing basis. I do have the opportunity to do that, but it's just whether or not I actually want to do that. There's something nice about not having a big death pile and cherry picking and just bringing in all the good stuff and listing and that. But there is also something else that's quite nice about having a security pile of books sitting there on the days and the weeks where I don't get to go out thrifting as much. I do have one problem that I've known about the whole time, which is Tom needs some of these cages emptied in the next couple of weeks for an incoming haul that he has. And I've been aware of this problem, and that's why I've been kind of trying to get through them as quickly as I can, but also it's just really, really hard to fit everything into a day and empty these cages because it is a lot of work, and some of the cages are harder than other cages to go through. Some of them I'm very good with my eye on going yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, maybe. And some of the cages I look at and I go, I don't know these genres very well. I need to price comp them a little bit more. Maybe, maybe, maybe. So I do feel like though that he probably needs still yet another 1 or 2 cages empty from me before this incoming haul. And maybe during this week, I might have to empty a couple of these cages onto a pallet on the ground just to be able to get those to him, which is not ideal, but it is something that I've known about, and it's just, it is what it is. Now, somebody asked me if I would sell any of these cages in full to a local buyer, and the answer is no. Now, one of the reasons is for me to experiment doing this haul, I have to buy 22 cages full at a time. I can't just buy 1 cage. That's not how it works when you get deals like this. These are like big bulk deals. They're not for the faint-hearted. They're not for somebody who's got storage issues. They're not for people who don't have warehouses or don't have forklifts and all the machinery that is required to manhandle all of these big cages. They're not something you just get somebody bringing in 1 cage at a time, dropping it in your little storage unit, and then you dealing with it. No, this is to scale. To be able to buy this many books like this, you have to buy a lot of them, and you need to be set up to do that. If I didn't have Tom here with all his equipment and his extra warehouses and his forklifts and his manpower, I would not be able to even tackle anything like this. It would be out of my range. I know there's a lot, and I know it's a lot for me to process, but if I don't go through all of these cages and see what's actually in them, how do I know if I want to do this again on an ongoing basis? I have the capacity to do it, so I need to know whether or not it's actually worth it. And the only way for me to actually know if it's worth it is by actually doing it. I need to sort through them. I need to see what's in them. I need to see how much of it I discard that doesn't meet the metrics of going into my store. I need to see how much of it is just rubbish. And some of those cages have better books in them than others. So how do I choose to send one over if I wanted to sell it to somebody local? Like, I would be looking in that cage, like just around the edges of it, going, what if it's got all the really good books hidden in the middle? And so I think I'd have a little bit of FOMO. So, the fear of missing out. If I was to sell one to someone else, I'd be like, what did they get that I could have got? So no, I think I need to actually do this. This is a task that I've taken on board, and I'm going to learn a lot from it as well. And I am the type of person who loves learning. I'm always learning every single day, self-learning. That is my biggest thing, is to self-learn every single day. And this is one way that I self-learn for my actual business and my bookstore. So yeah, no, I'm going to do all of these myself. Somebody's asked, how do I find time for sorting and listing all of these books? And guys, I am not going to lie to you, it is a juggle, and I am as time poor as everybody else. Sometimes I think I'm more time poor than everybody else. But I've got a lot on my plate, guys. I work a lot of late nights. I do long hours here in the warehouse some weeks. The weeks when I stay here with Tom, we often do like 12 to 14 hour days here at the warehouses. When I'm at home on my weeks, like I often work late at night when my daughter's playing the PlayStation with her brothers, like at night, which she likes to do. That's what 15-year-olds plus do. They play the PlayStation with their friends and they're all online with the little headsets on talking to each other. And when she does that, I'm at the computer listing. I'm not somebody that sits at home and watches TV. Like, that's not me. I can't. In fact, I don't even have TV at my house. I mean, I've got a TV, but there's no aerial, so you can't watch TV. You can watch like Netflix or something, but I don't even know how to do that on my own TV. Like, the kids have got it there if they want to use it, but I never come in and sit down and turn the television on. I'm the type of person who would prefer to be either sitting there listing at my computer or working on something for my videos, or self-learning and researching and learning about something new. That is something that I thrive off and I love. I love to self-learn. I love to teach myself new things. So I guess I like working. So I guess this next question kind of is similar to that one. How do you manage your workload to avoid burnout, especially with ADHD? And I don't know if I ever manage it completely. Like, you'll see me, I do go in and out of burnout like often. The biggest one recently was after I moved warehouse and needed to like take 45 days off my eBay store while I kind of recouped, and I still worked in that time doing my videos and other stuff, but I was able to go at a little bit of a slower pace and I needed that. So I think I'm much better at managing my burnout than what I used to be, because I'm much more self-aware these days than what I used to be. Every single day, guys, I do something to work on my inner self. And so I'm getting better at it, and I think I'm getting more self-aware so I can look now, and like the other week I made a video and it was something like, I'm doing the work even though I don't feel like it. And after that day, I really recognized I'm tired, I'm irritable, I don't feel like doing my work, my energy is low. I need to pull back now, because if I don't, I'm just going to get into this negative mindset, negative groove, negative, like, I don't want to be here, I don't feel like it. So as soon as I recognize that, boom, I'm trying to make a change. So I said to Tom that day, after that day, I need to go away this weekend and do something that's different out of the warehouse. I need to refresh, I need to rejuvenate, I need to go into nature, I need to get away. So he was fantastic. He took me away on the Sunday. We went for a really long day drive. We went up and saw a beautiful waterfall and walked up there and soaked in the view and got the smell of the rainforest. Not the rainforest, the water, the nature, like, oh, that is something that feeds the soul, just being outdoors and smelling nature and smelling water sometimes. Like, it's relaxing and it rejuvenates you. And then we went off and we drove through a small town called Kangaroo Valley, where we went and looked at all these cute little shops, and there was a really nice old bookstore, and Then we went through to the next town and we stopped and got fish and chips. And the whole time that we're driving throughout the whole day, we're talking and we're, connecting, and we're just sharing everything. And it's really, really nice to be able to step back and do that. And that was all I needed. The next day I came into work again, rejuvenated. I was ready again. My energy was back. Like, I just needed that one day. So I think sometimes it's just rejuvenating yourself and recognizing when you are feeling, tired or irritable or burnt out, and then pulling back onto that straight away. Don't let it keep going. If you just keep running yourself on an empty tank, then that's when you get to the point where you just absolutely crash. And once you crash, it's hard to pull out of that, really, really hard. Now, I get a lot of questions about the shelves in my business. Somebody asked if I'm going to add shelves here to the end of these aisles. The answer is definitely no. I love having the wider aisle here to move around in. I've got my computer desk here. I've got my photo station. I like to step back. In the last warehouse, I was so cramped. Everything was so tight. I couldn't wheel the trolleys around, and like working in a space that constantly makes you feel like this, it's not good. So no, I'm not going to put any shelves on the end of the aisles. But once I've finished with the cages, I will possibly add another row of shelves there if I need to. Because I will definitely have room once I don't have those cages. However, again, that's going to depend on whether or not I want to do another intake of cages. Because if I need to do another lot like that, then I probably need to always allow that same space to be bringing in constant streams of cages. Heaps and heaps of questions or statements or people telling me that I need to heighten the bench of my photo station. And yes, I do. It's something that I'm very aware of. I do stoop while I'm taking my photos. So I'm very aware of that. I'm going to buy some bed raisers when I go to the hardware shop. It's just that every time I go to the hardware shop, I forget to buy the bed raisers. But they are on the to-do list, and I totally agree with you 100% that it's not good ergonomics for the way that I sometimes do all my photography, and I'm crouching and I'm bending. I guess I'm used to it, but the older I get, I definitely do feel things more on my body. So I definitely will be buying some bed raisers, guys. Another question with my photography is people want to know how big my light ring is. And my light ring is 19 inches. I would not recommend a smaller light ring. I think 19 inches is the perfect. People have also asked about how I deal with the ring light reflections onto books. And I think the smaller the ring light you have, the more reflections you're going to get onto it. The bigger the ring light you have, I think the less reflection of the ring light you will get. And also you might notice me sometimes in my videos that if I have a shiny book cover that is reflecting a little bit of light, you will see me just tilt my light back and forth, or I slightly move the book over to the left-hand side a little bit more and just maneuver it a little bit, or tilt the camera slightly different. And all of that is just to combat getting any of those little ring lights. Occasionally there's a little bit left in the corner, which doesn't so much bother me, but I don't like the look of big ring reflection lights on the books. I don't like that, and yeah, those are the ways that I try to combat it. Now, somebody asked me what my daily listing goal is, and this year I've actually moved towards having a weekly listing goal, but don't get me wrong, I think the best practice for any reseller is to have a listing daily goal rather than a weekly goal. I don't think I'm doing it in the best way possible for my actual store. I do think having a daily listing goal, it helps you not only on a personal level with your own consistency and building good habits into your reselling business, but it helps the eBay algorithm by, having new fresh listings going into your store every day. For me personally, over the last couple of years, I have got really down on myself when I miss my listing goals, because sometimes I can be really good and I'll smash out daily listings every single day and I'm really up and my energy's high. And then when I have the days where I don't hit my listing goal, I'm really hard on myself and I'm really down on myself. And the reason why I don't always hit it is because I basically do 2 full-time jobs here with YouTube. And some days I have to dedicate more time to my YouTube than I do for my eBay. And some days I dedicate more time to my eBay than I do for my YouTube. So I almost play catch up with the two. Sometimes I'm catching up with editing and videos, and sometimes I'm catching up with listings and photography and all the stuff that I have to batch do for eBay. So I've set myself a listing goal of 350 listings a week, which I think is a good substantial number to be able to keep growing my eBay store, but also to be bringing in this level of stock that I've got coming from the cages. I need to make sure that I'm listing enough, because otherwise it's just going to build up and build up and build up, and the death pile will become huge, which I don't want. I don't want that. I want to be able to like process this as quickly as possible. So the goal is 350 a week. For January, I didn't quite hit that every single week, but I do have my numbers here because I'm tracking everything at the moment. When I started on the 1st of January, I had 6,277 listings. And on the 1st of February, before I did any listings, I had 6,383 listings. Now, I sold 1,032 items in the month of January. So my store has ended up with a plus of 106 listings from the 1st of January to the 1st of February. So that means I have at least listed the 1,032 that I sold, plus I've got that extra 106 that's in the store now to help grow it. I didn't quite hit it, but because I know those numbers, I've got them written down here on paper. You know, I know where I'm at, so I'm able to look at that and go, okay, you maintained your store levels by adding a little bit more. You didn't quite hit your goal, but you need to keep going and keep going for the next month. So by writing it all down and having my numbers here, that helps me to stay on top for the next month and know exactly where I'm at. Somebody asked me what my approach is to my business goals, and I'm not the type of person who's got like a pretty vision board hanging over there on the wall. I've got the vision board here inside my head. But my approach this year to business goals is different than it's ever been before. In the past, I've set all these big goals and I never really follow through with actually making them happen. And I'm aware of that, and I know that if I always do what I've always done, then I'm always going to get the same result. And my main goal this year, I've decided, is just to do and to take action. Because in the past, what I do is I procrastinate on things and I do things based on how I'm feeling, and I do other tasks to avoid doing the actual tasks that I should be doing. So now when I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do something or not, the question that I'm asking myself inside my head is this going to get you closer to your goal, Mel? So if my goal is to buy a house, if that's a financial goal for me to buy a house, a lot of the things I'm asking myself before I do something is this going to get you closer to your goal? And if the answer is yes, do it. Take the action, do the work. If the answer is no, this is not going to get me closer to my goal, don't do it. That's how I'm making my answers up now, and that's how I'm actually going about doing stuff. I've had a few questions around bundling the books after making a bundling book video. Somebody asked me, how do I know once I've photographed it and wrapped it and put it onto the shelf, how do I know I'm picking the right bundle? So for example, all those Western books that I bought, they all look exactly the same when they're on bundles. This is the way that I know exactly what I'm doing. So I've got these little stickers that I put on the outside of the plastic. And when I photograph the bundle of books, after I've wrapped it up, I take a photo of this and before I move on to taking the photos of the next bundle. And that way, when I'm doing the actual listing into the computer, when I write down the shelf in the SKU section, so I might go shelf J12, and then next to J12, so it'll say J12, and then it'll say 0230, and then it'll say January 2025. That way I know it's on shelf J12, it's bundle number 0230, and I listed it in January of 2025. So it's very simple, it works very well, and that's how I don't send out the wrong bundles to anyone else. I just have to cross-reference it. So one thing when I'm doing the listing, the first thing I do in a brand new listing is put my SKU in there, because that's one of the most important parts for me not to forget. If I forget putting the SKU into my listing and then I sell the book and there's no SKU on it, I am doomed. So I put the SKU in absolutely first before doing any other part of the listing. Then I do the title, which is above the SKU, And then when I'm scrolling back down to do all the item specifics, I double check visually that I've put the SKU in, so I haven't missed it. So I'm checking twice that I've actually entered that SKU to make sure I don't get any wrong. So I get asked this question a lot about when I'm listing book bundles is, do I write each book, so there's 4 books here, do I write the 4 different ISBN numbers of the books into my description, or do I write the 4 different titles of the books into my description? How do I do it? The answer is no, I don't. It's a very generic listing where I am working, selling the book based on the keywords. So for a bundle like this one, for example, it might say something like 4 MC Beaton, Agatha Raisin, mystery, paperback book bundle lot, or something like that, something similar to that. And there's no way that I don't put in there, like, this book's called Perfect Paragon. There's nowhere, anywhere in the listing that I've written Perfect Paragon. I'm trying to sell this based on somebody searching from MC Beaton's Agatha Raisin mystery series. That's how I'm trying to sell it, like that. So this is where it gets tricky if you're making up bundles that are mixed and assorted authors, because it makes it harder to keyword title into your title when you've only got 80 characters. And let's say you've got a bundle of 6 books and they're all by different authors. It's hard to kind of title that book because you can't fit the names of 6 authors into the 80 character title. So then you're based on doing something like 6 women's fiction large paperback novels. That is quite generic to be able to find. Whereas when I'm doing something like this, it's a series. So it's a little bit easier because people are searching the Agatha Raisin series books, mystery series. I don't do anything fancy like that in my listings. I rely on the item specifics and the keywords, not so much the description when I'm doing bundles. Now, I'm getting a lot of questions about my stock take. I'm just going to let you know that I'm going to make an entire video next week on stock taking and how I'm stock taking and if I'm consolidating and the SKU numbers and everything about it, and I'll answer all the different questions about the stock take into one dedicated video because I think it needs an entire video to show the process, so stay tuned for that one. Somebody asked if they think that I will always be a bookseller or if I will move to something that's less physically demanding, and I'm not afraid of pivoting to a different reselling niche if I need to. I've done it before. I started as a sneaker seller. I then moved to being a used clothing seller, to an everything kind of seller. And then when COVID hit, I pivoted to being a bookseller. It's not something I'm afraid of, and I think every reseller should be able to pivot to a different genre if they need to. A good reseller can pivot. And if this became too physically demanding for me, then sure, I would just go, righto, something needs to change. I need to like move into another niche of some kind, something that isn't so heavy maybe. But at the moment, I don't find this too physically demanding. Obviously, when I moved warehouse, that was physically demanding on my body, but the general day-to-day of running the bookstore, I don't find it all that bad. It keeps me fit, it keeps me strong, and I really enjoy selling the books. So at this stage, no. Ask me in another 5 years or 10 years, maybe then I'll be looking to physically slow down into a different type of genre. Somebody's asked if I am registered for GST, which is a goods and service tax here in Australia that you have to pay once you earn over a certain amount of money. I think it's $75,000 a year in sales. So yes, I am well and truly earning over $75,000 worth of sales, so I most definitely have to pay GST, which goes to the accountant to sort out. And they've also asked me if I track all my individual sales on a daily, with like daily records. And the answer is no. I most certainly am not tracking every single sale price of every single individual book. The accountant doesn't need to see that. I don't have the time and energy for that. I'm not a spreadsheet girl that likes to see the individual numbers of every single item. No, thank you. I track everything on a weekly and a monthly and a yearly basis. So like for instance, yesterday I just went through and tracked all my January numbers. So I look at how many sales did I make, how much eBay fees did I pay, how much did I pay in shipping, how much did I spend on new costs of goods during the month, and then I've got all the other like miscellaneous business expenses that come with it for taxes like warehouse rent, mobile telephone, internet, car, maintenance, etc., etc., etc. But basically, I'm looking at my numbers as a whole. I want to be able to look at it there at a month and go, this is how much money I made, this is how much money I spent, this is what's left over, this is the profit left over, and keep building that profit and keep working my way up. I don't need to look on it every single day like, oh, this book made me $2 profit, this book made me $100 profit, blah, blah, blah. No, it all evens out in the wash. I just have to look at it as whole numbers, weekly, monthly, yearly. Somebody wants to know if I had the chance if I would change my inventory system, and I don't think so. I have changed my inventory system multiple times over my years of reselling. This is the best system I have found so far. Obviously, if I had unlimited space in a warehouse, I would prefer to have the books all facing this way than this way, so I didn't have to be pulling them out. That would be more ideal, but I would need a huge warehouse to be able to have enough room to do shelving systems like that, and I just don't have the space for it. But no, I'm happy with the way that it works. I'm happy with the way that my system works. Most of the time, I don't have any problems finding any inventory when I'm picking and packing. Couple of instances after I moved warehouse, which is to be expected, but for the most part, I don't have any issues with the inventory SKU system, so I don't think I would actually change it. I've tried different things over the years, and when they don't work for me, I change it. Once I find something that works, I'm not there to reinvent the wheel. If I find something that works in my business, I'm sticking with it. There's a few questions about why you haven't seen Tom in many of my videos over the month of January since I've moved in here. And the reason is just that we're both working. I'm not actually just making these videos as like fun content for, like, I'm actually documenting my days here in the warehouse. And during the weekday, Tom is in his warehouse working, I am in my warehouse working, and we're both just trying to, you know, work really, 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 really hard at the moment and start the year off strong. There hasn't been many book fairs like through December, January. It's not like a peak time where we go to book fairs because we're busy or they're just not on. But the book fairs will start to, there's one coming up in this weekend actually. There's book fairs that are starting to come up now, so we will start traveling again for more book fairs. And when we travel for book fair videos, that's normally when I'm going out and I'm making like thrifting on the road type style videos. So realistically, the reason why you haven't seen Tom much is because he's working away in his warehouse and I'm working away here in my warehouse. But you will be pleased to know that I've asked Tom if I can come in one day and document his pick and pack process, and he has agreed to that as long as it's not on a Monday, which is his busiest day. So I will plan to do that in the next, I don't know, couple of weeks. Whenever I get a chance, I'll go in there and I'll make a video for you showing the process of what it's like for him as primarily as a CD and a DVD seller, and all the cleaning of the discs and what he does to be able to get all his orders picked and packed. Somebody's asked if I would consider doing Whatnot, and I'll just let you know that Whatnot is currently in beta testing here in Australia, so it's not available yet for anybody to use. But I have thought long and hard about whether or not, if it comes here, whether or not it's a platform that I want to dive into. And I'm pretty sure 100% I have decided that I am not interested in doing Whatnot. I feel like I've already got enough on my plate doing YouTube and eBay, and I just don't think Whatnot's for me. I'm not sure how the books would go on it, and I most certainly don't want to add another task to my job list of having to go out and source different products specifically just to sell on Whatnot. It just doesn't interest me. Somebody on Instagram asked me last night, what is the biggest thing that I think I've achieved in the last 4 years? And whoa, that question made me like stop in my tracks and really like step back and think about that. And I could probably go really deep on this one, guys, but in the last 4 years, my life has changed completely. I have gone through a marriage separation. I have had to learn to become financially independent on only my own income and not rely on having a secondary income. I had to move out on my own. Children that have gone from teenagers to adults. I've had children that have lived at home and now have moved out of home with their girlfriends or boyfriends. I have myself gone into a brand new relationship after being in a long-term relationship for 22 years. Going into a new relationship as a grown adult is quite different than going into a relationship when you're in your teens or your early 20s. It's quite different going into a relationship, I think, in your late 40s. And I've moved out here to the warehouses. My business has grown from like this tiny little thing in my lounge room into this full-scale operation out here. To think about what is the biggest thing that I've achieved in that last 4 years, there's so many things, but I think one of the biggest things that I'm most proud about is the inner work that I've been doing and how I've increased my self-worth and my self-belief in myself, which hasn't been an easy task and is something that I've struggled with my whole life. So self-doubt, it doesn't ever completely disappear, but I'm really proud of myself that I don't let it take control over me anymore, because that just shows me how much stronger I've become. I heard a quote the other day that said, "I am ready for anything and I am equal to anyone." And that quote hit me more than any quote has hit me in a long, long time. I think over the last few years, I have been thrown every single challenge under the sun, challenges that I didn't know how I was going to get through. And I had no self-worth. My self-worth was down here. And Tom has been phenomenal in lifting up my self-worth, and so have other people that have been surrounding me and in my inner circle. But I have had to work so hard, and I continue to work hard at building my self-worth and having less self-doubts within myself. That has been a constant battle. And I'm so proud of where I am now compared to where I started from, because I truly didn't know how I was going to get through things. But something that I've learned and proven to myself through experience, resilience, taking action, is that there's nothing that I can't get through now. I can get through anything that is set for me. So for the first time ever, I truly do feel like I'm ready for anything. Throw it at me. Whatever you got for me, universe, I'm ready. I can handle it now. I'm strong, right? I have proven to myself that my self-worth doesn't have to be low, because I can do it. This is my year. I'm ready for anything. I'm equal to anyone, and I'm going after what I deserve this year. And that is the biggest thing that I'm actually proud of. Somebody asked me if I'm getting better at managing my finances after I did make a video last year talking about how it is something that I struggle with managing. And yes, I do think I'm getting much better at my finances. I've got tech and sports in my ear constantly, like about make sure you're checking your bank account and making sure the bank account is always increasing. If I wasn't managing my money better, I wouldn't have been able to take the time off the eBay store when I crashed and burnt out after I moved. The only reason I was able to do that is because I had been saving and I'd been mindful of my spending, and I had built up an emergency fund into my business account. So I've got a personal account with some emergency money, but I'd also built up a business account that had emergency funds in it, and I needed those emergency funds to help pay the bills while I wasn't earning any money from eBay for those 45 days. So without of being mindful and managing the money, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. So now the focus is on building that money back up into that emergency fund to get it back to exactly where it was, and maybe even building it a little bit higher than what it was before, after going through that period where I thought I might only need a week or two off, but I ended up needing like 6 weeks off. So I think the bigger the emergency fund that you can build, the better for both personal and for business. And yeah, I just think in general, I'm becoming much more mindful of everything around money. And I've also had to change mentally how I think about money to try and get rid of my money blocks. And I think also what I was talking about before with increasing my self-worth and, decreasing my self-doubts. I think by increasing my self-worth, it's also made me feel like what I was saying before, I'm equal to anyone. I'm equal to anyone, and I'm capable of earning more money than just enough money to pay the bills. I think that was always my money mentality. As long as I'm earning enough money to pay the bills, I'll be okay. But I don't work this hard to just pay all the money for the bills. I don't want that. If I'm going to work this hard, I want to reap some rewards and have some benefits from it. I don't want to work this hard just to pay the bills. Who am I kidding myself? So by me limiting myself, by telling myself, well, Mel, you just got to make enough money to pay the bills. No, I don't want that. I want more than that. I think I deserve more than that, and I think I'm equal to anyone else who's got more than that. Then there's a lot of people in this world that are making more money than just paying the bills. And money is just an energy. There's so much money out there. It's just constantly being printed. Why do we have to limit ourselves to only earning a certain amount of money? This year is my year. This year is all about me trusting in myself, trusting in my decisions. I know that I am equal to anyone else, and I am going to be very good at managing my money. So yeah, I am definitely feeling much more confident in managing my finances. Somebody has asked if I will ever visit the UK. Now, what you might not know is when I first started my YouTube channel and had about 1,000 subscribers, and I had quite the following of UK followers, and I made a pact with them when I hit 50,000 subscribers that I would start planning a trip and come over to the UK. And guys, guess what? As far as I know, I think I'm nearly at 48,000. So that 50,000 is on its way, guys. So that means, yes, I am most definitely looking at planning a trip to the UK. I can't wait to come to the UK. There's many resellers over there. I've got many friends in the UK that I've met online, and I can't wait to go over there and visit the UK. I've just got to also work it around because I do have a real goal of buying a house. So I need to maybe talk to the accountant or my mortgage broker or something about at the expense of a trip prior to buying the house, or whether or not the expense of the trip should come after buying the house. I don't know, like there's a few things that I have to juggle. But anyway, I'm definitely coming to UK, and hopefully it is this year, guys. So stay tuned. Right. This has actually been a hard video to make. It's actually hard to sometimes answer these questions because they're deep questions that require me to think, and then I have to get my thoughts together, and sometimes I'm just like, bah, I can't tell me how many takes some of these little things have had me take. As for what video is coming up next, guys, I've got the stock take video coming up. I've got a book fair coming up, so stay tuned. I'm going to film the book fair. I've got to go through some more cages, probably do some more photography. There's lots happening here as always. So keep watching. See you in the next video. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Bye.